नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम अम्मा बाद बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाmu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for joining this week's Bayan, the Wayfarer's Path Bayan, which we talk about all things practical and how to live in this world um, as a Sufi, as a true thoroughbred Sufi, as a active Muslim, so that you may lead a fulfilling life. And the topic of today's discussion, fix yourself before fixing your rulers, our political rulers, self-analysis, and better use of pastimes. Now, these are all topics I come across um, during the week. Right? I try to make it as uh, updated, as pertinent as possible. And of course, everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what is our ruling class like? Increasingly venal, increasingly allegedly corrupt, um, increasingly out of touch with people, increasingly there's this desire for pursuit of wealth, if not wealth, power, if not power, fame, if not fame, I don't know what comes beyond that. Maybe trying to be like God, uh, trying to live forever. Some weeks ago, we discussed in the Bayan about how some world leaders were caught on camera, uh, their microphone, caught on their microphone talking about living forever, living eternally, and only Allah is eternal, without a beginning and without an end. So, there's much that our rulers, our leaders can be blamed for. There's a lot that is going on wrong, and you see it, right? Um, it's generally becoming worse. Just today, or just day before, yesterday, day before, the invasion of the South American country by the indispensable nation. Uh, just blatant disregard. Though I have to say, uh, some of these rulers, they can be blamed of a lot of things, but not hypocrisy to some extent, right? They don't cloak their naked aggression with uh, high-worded, high-minded, highly exercised language, right? So in a way, they're not hypocrites. And hypocrite is the worst class in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So much so that the lowest rungs of hell will be specially reserved not for the disbeliever, but for the hypocrite. Hypocrite can profess to be a Muslim, they can profess to have read the Kalma. The Zahir might be of a Muslim, but the Batin is not one of a Muslim. Um, Something to be very scared of, actually. All the more reason, all the more argument that Zahir and Batin, so your outward and inward, for them to be in complete sync and coming ever closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many things it may be, but not hypocrites. At least they're quite barefaced, honest, unhypocritical in their aggression. So you're seeing this, right? So recent events, invasions happening across the world. What you're seeing is the guardrails are increasingly falling off international order. This rules-based system set up after World War II. You're seeing increasingly that it's just becoming more hectic, more turbocharged, more fast-paced wars and conflict. So you're seeing this actual secular move, this actual move, not secular in the sense that we often use it, but a secular trend you're seeing towards increasing troubles. So you see that our rulers are moving towards as rulers and their supporting classes, and it's all become about the world increasingly so, right? And I was saying that you're is genuinely moving that direction. In earlier times, not to romanticize it, I often do that these days. It's probably a sum of growing older. I walk through some of these streets in Riyadh and feel nostalgia. Some of them are like some houses remind you of old Karachi. Um, many of them, some of them are like um, evocative of a Najib Mahfouz novel writing about an Egyptian city, Egyptian streetscape. Um, so you feel that nostalgia. So it's probably a sum of age. Um, so take it with a grain of salt. But there is this understanding that before it was not so money minded. There was definitely um, something about ideas, right? Something more high minded, so ideological, if you will. Not that not that it was often good, but definitely there was something. There was cerebral about it, and it was reasonably thought out and acted through also, right? So, and that's just increasingly vanishing. And probably the main reason for that is this mobile phone. This 20% of videos they find are AI slop, right? So when your brain's exposed to that, how is it going to become anything less than curry or yogurt? And what ideas will ferment? What thoughts, what ambitions will come out from it? Probably nothing. It's a quicksand of any action. So when you compare with that, there was a genuine, move towards some higher ideals. There was a genuine feeling of higher ideals. Purely following after wealth was frowned upon. And that's important. Your society, if it has certain, as I mentioned, guardrails, if it has certain, it creates a protective edge around the more sinister behaviors of humanity, then it's an important guardrail, which are increasingly being removed. So it's a genuine move, understandable. The criticism, understandable, about our ruling classes becoming increasingly out of touch. It's pretty surreal. Um, I mention this often that even a person at my level has more wealth than Pharaoh of yesteryear, right? And I'm not average. I'll be far, far, far above average, maybe average among this tiny sliver of the well-to-do to the super wealthy. But you get my point, right? So, but still, it's not enough. More and more and more. Man becomes grossly overweening when he considers himself self-sufficient, right? The sixth ayat of the Quran uh, uh, of Surah Ikra, Ikra Bismi Rabbika Allazi Khalaq. Um, so you're seeing this move in that direction, a genuinely troubling move. However, having said all of that, all of it is acknowledged, accepted, fine. You're right. For those who point this out and make it a point of contention, they're absolutely right. But I put it across to you that that's less a reflection of our time. It's more less a reflection of a certain segment of people rather than a reflection of society as a whole, right? Can we deny if uh, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that like people, uh, like rulers, right? So what's after saying all of this thing, after laying it down about this elite class, this ruling class, after laying it all, uh, after laying it across against them, fine, everything right, absolutely right, spot on. They're very, very bad people. Agreed. But you can't make the cake and eat all of it too. You have to take, I'm talking about Islam over here. We can't piecemeal pick uh, bits and pieces that suit our narrative. We have to look at the whole picture. And the whole picture says that as the people, as the rulers. I'm paraphrasing. So if that's the case, then what does that say? Uh, let's put rulers on the side. What does it say about us, right? If we were to conduct a analytic analysis of the self, what would we arrive at? What conclusion could we possibly arrive at? The conclusion we can possibly arrive at is that the problem, yes, is with them also, but it probably lies with us also. And by us, I don't mean the teeming masses of those people who are increasingly food insecure, who are facing outright, even I'm not even going towards outright poverty, outright um, destitution. Even those who, I'm not even, actually not even food insecure, um, even above that, our middle classes are getting increasingly squeezed. The middle classes are getting increasingly squeezed. And I only personally just, I barely made it out um, because of luck. But so you're definitely seeing um, this. Um, so I'm probably not talking about them, though something has to be said about the scene you witness when you get out on an average Karachi street. Even yeah, the traffic is just the driving etiquette is just horrendous over here, but not even close to as bad as Karachi, right? I think it's usually I intensely dislike criticizing Pakistan and Pakistanis, and I'll come to that. I think there's more than enough that's commented. It's a national sport. It's a favorite pastime to lay it on Pakistan and Pakistanis, especially Pakistan. Uh, I don't know why, even though it should probably be the other way around. In that everything we have today is because of Pakistan. Everything good that we have is because of Pakistan. Um, so it's with considerable caution that I say it's just an observation comparing Riyadh traffic with Karachi traffic, um, or rather, a thing that I observe over here versus Pakistan. Not to criticize anyone, just I to understand what I'm saying. The criticism I just come to in a bit. But here I see the fault is of takabbur, right? Of arrogance. There's a lot of arrogance over here. This idea that I'm self-sufficient, so I become grossly overweening, right? People, I think over here mistake blessings with ability, right? This is one major fault I see over here. The rest, I think it's incredible. MashaAllah, I see how they have this jazba, they have this hunger to do the Jamaat, uh, to do a Jamaat, not just to pray alone. They're generous people, they're very good people, um, especially if you meet them individually. Genuinely good people, far better than you and I, right? Because if their sin is of arrogance, our sin is of dishonesty. Okay, so, and I think something very interesting to be observed. Yeah, again, not a criticism to lay it on Pakistanis. I'll just come to my example. So, dishonesty. I proclaim myself to be such a big Sufi and a Sheikh, no less. But, I should start with myself. I'll come to it. But a major issue I see is of dishonesty in Pakistanis. I think it's an interesting comment because, in our in the Sufi, in the Naqshbandi silsila, you have the lessons, right? In each of the lesson, it focuses on a certain negative trait, nafsani trait, the trait of the self. ego, anger, arrogance, self-love. Like these are all different points that we initially uh, cleanse. We do our islah in our lessons, right? Initial first um, 7 lessons, and the eighth one, Hafsadam, is for um, a very powerful, focused cleansing of whatever issue we are facing of the self. So what you'll see is you'll see arrogance in one of these lessons. What you won't see is dishonesty. There's no lesson for removing dishonesty. And I think that's something great to be pondered over in that what that probably means is dishonesty. It's not even a, it's beyond unacceptable. If you're dishonest, what is it that mafhum or hadith that the person who lies is not from among us. Sallallahu said, right? Not excommunicated from the religion, but is not one of us, right? So it's something so beyond the pale that when one begins in this process, it's expected that this person doesn't have this disease. It's in fact not even a disease because disease is the couple arrogance and all these other anger. These are other traits of the self that need to be controlled. Dishonesty is not there anywhere. So we have a whole nation. We're often like this. You know, again, I'm sorry. I'll include myself in this, and I'll just come to that. I'll come to that. You know, and this I think is something to really be thought over. That what this means for us as a society. And isn't this something that we blame our rulers for also? That they're so dishonest. But again, I'm coming to this as people, so they're rulers. I was talking about the traffic example. You know, just look at the way, and I was trying to connect it to um, the fact that yes, whatever uh, whoever I'm critiquing over here are my types, right? The wealthy sliver of just below the super wealthy, who I think we just resent, not because they're doing something bad, but because we probably can't get into it, right? Speaking for myself over here. Sorry for the we. Speaking for myself over here. So I'll come to us and to mitigate the criticism on the people who have less, right? But still, even for them, I would say just go out on an average Pakistani street in the traffic. How do we behave? We behave like um, we behave like sleep deprived animals. It's ridiculous the way we behave, right? Such a huge hue and cry when Karachi police, excellently so, implemented this thing about tickets, right? So huge hue and cry. How can you do this? Yeah, we should all be happy that this is happening. Yeah, there's faults in the system, and may Allah make it so that it continues. But anyhow, I've been in the traffic, and there's nothing that stops a rickshawala from like one of my aunts called them a Khudkash Bombar, a suicide bomber. A rickshaw. Very appropriate descriptions. Weaving through whamming. When I was in Engro as a sales guy, I had three accidents, nothing serious, alhamdulillah. Two of them, mashallah, grand total of 66.6% of my accident rate was caused by rakshas. Just because they were driving the way they were driving. I never caught any of them. They managed to suicide bomb their way out into disappearance. So the way the Rakshawala behaves, the way the motorbike wala behaves, look at the condition of our cars. Sure, people are poor, but you can maintain it, right? You can keep it clean. You can see an old clean car, an old clean motorbike, and a new filthy bike. You know, I think it tells something about the person, uh, and tells something about individuals, and tells something on the aggregate about society. So while I reserve pretty much every one of my criticism. For me, um, I think even for those who have far less, something to be thought about your behaviors too. My dad's time in his village, they didn't have proper, a full stomach of food, which is probably a good thing actually. Nothing like controlling the nafs as an empty stomach, but this argument that they have so less and what can a person do? I to some extent fine, but I don't buy it also. I think this is our dishonesty. This is our dishonesty. And again, tracing it to our leaders, it's not the leaders because of which the society is dishonest. It's the other way around. You and I am dishonest, which is why the leaders get the space to do this. Um, there's nothing stopping us from paying our taxes appropriately. There's nothing stopping us from, with caveats, I understand. I know of business leaders who express regret in in doing the right thing because then the powers that be just start harassing them for more. So keeping all those caveats in mind, everything in mind, my point again is that there's so much that uh, we can do without before resorting to blaming our rulers, such as stopping at the red light, wearing our seatbelts, not weaving in and out like a suicide bomber, you know, behaving appropriately, wearing helmets. These behaviors they show our city, Karachi, it has no one to blame, no one to blame except you and me. Okay, our markets, the way we keep it clean, what time we wake up to start business, how long we keep sleeping. We brag about Karachi being the city of lights, which probably means just staying up late and eating outside food. And anyhow, look, I'm just saying um, everything that I said about the rulers, everything that has been said about rulers is probably correct, but take a look at yourself also. Another thing also, how do you and I know if it's correct, even what you're saying about the rulers? Hmm? Um, were you there? Have you looked in their accounts? I'm not saying that they probably haven't. Allah knows best. Um, but do we really know? So this is where I'm coming. Like self-analysis. First, take a look at yourself, and then better use our pastimes. And how much time do we waste on just talking about our rulers? And what do we know about the pressures that they face? Another reason why this was triggered, um, this idea for talking about this game is I just got a new car, a very nice car. Shaykh Saad was very happy. Told me he's very happy I got the best. I got the top of the line SUV, and I'm really happy with it. My family is really happy with it. Alhamdulillah is given, and I went and I uh, spent, and Alhamdulillah, again, this idea that poverty or wealth, Allah's testing you in both, and you should um, try to pass it. Allah is the maker of the passing as best as you can, right? So, Alhamdulillah, this new car under the guidance of my Shaykh, who has taught me to appropriately react. So, anyhow, new car, very nice. So, I listened to a few podcasts and channels, and one of them was about this Iranian scholar, right, talking about um, Iran vis-a-vis geopolitics, right, and the nefarious designs of powers that be, such as indispensable nations. And the whole argument of the scholar was that, those Iranians who are protesting against their rulers, they're saying we want freedom and rah, 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 and it's your fault. And those rulers have now been vindicated over the events, they have been vindicated over the events of the past 1 year, where people are now, oh, you know what, the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, we've been criticizing our rulers. We've been making fun of them. We've been criticizing them. Uh, we will tell you, they're the ones, we will tell you how policy should be run. And now, after 50 years, say, you know what, they were right. So that's another thing, you don't know what pressures they're going through. You don't know what they're looking at. Um, Again, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of wrong that's going on. I preface this entire discussion at least 10 minutes by talking about how bad they are. May Allah forgive me for whatever wrong I've said. But my point is twofold. Number one, how do you know what they've done wrong is actually what they've done? And even if you're right, if there's even a single paisa of accusation that you make against them that was not done as you say, is opening yourself up for analysis by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the first thing. And secondly, you don't know what pressures they're facing and what they what vision they have and what are some of the problems that they're facing. At their vantage point, it's very easy from our vantage point to look at them and say, oh, why don't they, you know, why do they spend so much on defense and weapons? Why are we um, uh, Pakistan? As recent events showed, Alhamdulillah, we're very lucky to have armed forces who protected our nation. Fine, there's all sorts of problems with them, 300%, all agree. But what business do you and I have doing what it is what you and I do and behaving the way you and I do to criticize them, right? We don't fix ourselves. We just want to blame them. And I mentioned already that if I observe us as a people, my types, we're dishonest. And that's something to ponder over for fixing our dishonesty because those rulers are a reflection of us. Okay? And if we are to fix ourselves, it will filter up, inshallah, for a very, very positive change. So, self analysis and a better use of pastimes. In fact, um, I'll even share a couple of instances why this topic was also provoked. A few days ago, also, I got this gentleman who's from uh, a major religious organization, and he told me that yeah, if you want to have your paper published by a close relative of mine, pay us a few thousand reals and we'll get it done, and I'll get it published. And he said it so casually that I initially I didn't understand what he was saying. I thought he was going to pay this close relative of mine to publish uh, a paper. This guy has a full beard. He's a my type, and he's saying this. So just imagine, and he's saying, yeah, some Saudis we get their names on the papers for their authorship. I'm just thinking this guy on his level. I was shocked. On his level, he's doing this thing. What does that say about us as a people, and what does that say about us as Maulvis? Uh, you know, uh, Forget about our rulers. And again, not talk about that poor guy. Me, I'll share an incident in which I was trying to basically get away with flying on the national airlines. My One of my kids, he was above 2 years or maybe 3 years, I remember. And the logic being that, oh, he sits in my lap anyway, so why should I get an extra ticket? You know? And I don't know how I just put it across to my sheikh. And I kid you not, my sheikh, I can count on a few of these fingers of his hands that he scolded me. But he said that you are stealing. You are stealing if you do this. Okay? And I was just, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Allah saved me. Uh, I did get to still fly the kid because the TIA manager, we went to him and said, look, this is what we've done. We've messed up. We're really sorry. We'll pay. And he said, okay, let's go. And Sheikh Saad said, okay, fine. This is one time you got to make your cake and eat it too, but don't do this ever again. So I'm talking about myself, right? Myself, me stealing from my nation. And do I have any grounds? Do I have any face to go and start criticizing my rulers? To not analyze myself critically and to make a better use of my pastime, to ponder over the mistakes I'm making? I think the answer is yes, I should ponder more, criticize my rulers less, analyze more, make better use of my pastime. And the only way, the crux of this entire meeting, which we've come to close to, is that having a shaykh, alhamdulillah, a teacher, a guide, will get you through these times. Someone who can just, because we're humans, we make mistakes. Sufi, sheikh like myself, you know, uh, they don't make sheikhs like they used to, obviously. Um, the sheikh, there's other amazing sheikhs, mashallah, such as the khulafa of my sheikh. But, humans are prone towards making mistakes, committing these crimes. So the best way to get through it, is by having a sheikh, referring to your sheikh, deferring to your sheikh, and always referring to your sheikh. So on that note, fix yourself before fixing your rulers. No need to fix your rulers, fix yourself through your sheikh. Jazakallah for joining. Until next week, inshallah. Salam, inshallah, if God wills, if Allah gives life. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.